problem really got bad about maybe 18 years ago with the first budget that did not fully fund the actuarially required contribution to the pension systems. Then it really exacerbated itself as you approached 2008 and you began to see the effects of the recession. By that point, it had become a fairly common practice in Frankfurt to not fully fund the actuarially required contribution. It's worth noting that that portion of it is only about 25%, give or take, depending on the system, of why they're not fully funded. Failing to meet the assumed rate of return is a large portion of it. Payroll growth not being an accurate assumption is a large portion of it. Changes in actuarial accounting standards is a large portion of it. So while the underfunding gets a lot of attention, the fact is it's only about a quarter of the reason as to why the systems don't work. You would hope that your pensions were a long-term situation, but the fact is these are a very short-term situation. We are on the brink of being insolvent in the CERS non-hazardous plan. And that will further degrade our ability to deliver basic services in the Commonwealth. So before we show up for the budget session, pensions have got to be done. I still remain committed to that as an aspect of pension reform. That's certainly something I hope that we can do as we progress through this, because I think it's an important component to allow those who fund a system to be the ones that make the decision about it as well. There's people who represent the KERS system who simply want to hold CERS hostage in their attempts to negotiate because they know that there will be more leverage if there are more people at the table negotiating. And it's a very selfish motivation, but they are where they are with it. The fact is we're here to make sound public policy decisions for the long term. The fact that we're making these decisions in 2017 as a consequence of legislators that are really 2 generations removed and 1 generation removed from here speaks to the nature of this problem, which is people weren't willing to be honest with themselves, mainly for the reason that they were afraid of how employees and employee groups would react. But the fact is we've got to do the right thing by the employee groups and by the taxpayers both. And we're left to grapple with problems from generations ago. And the fact that we're willing to grapple with them says, I don't care if you're in KERS or CERS. Come to the table with ideas. Understand not all of your ideas are going to be accepted. Not all of your ideas are going to be rejected. You aren't going to like everything we do. You aren't going to hate everything that we do. But at the end of the day, we're here to make decisions to move Kentucky forward for the next several generations. I believe with all my heart there'll be a special session. The governor seems exceptionally committed to it. The fact is this problem is such that it just can't be ignored anymore. And we owe it both to those drawing pensions and to those paying taxes to find a solution for this, because, as I've said so many times, it doesn't matter if you're an advocate for education or for justice or for foster and adoptive system services or for any number of governmental items. What you're passionate about is being choked off by the Commonwealth's pension payments. We would have to apply every dime of growth revenues plus cut every other aspect of government double digits to be able to keep up with our obligations. And that's simply not sustainable, and it's not fair to the taxpayers to take that approach. My hope would be that we handle the 2 issues separately, because I believe that until we truly know the nature of our pension obligation, we can't begin to make decisions about comprehensive tax policy. Pensions are the biggest growth item in the Commonwealth's budget. In 2008, about 18% of the Commonwealth's budget went to pensions and Medicaid. In 2018, a simple decade later, that number will be almost 38% of the Commonwealth's budget going to those same 2 items. So we have got to get it under control. I'm not a big fan of centralized collection. I believe with all of my heart that this administration, if they were to do so, would return the money appropriately. We've seen effective governance in that regard, but long term, Frankfurt does not have a good track record of returning money to the appropriate places. You need only look at the CLEP funds that have been swept many, many times to balance the budget to look at the Nature Commission funds that have been swept many, many times to balance the budget, and so many others where money has been taken from taxpayers to say we're going to pay for a particular item, only to have it used to pay operational expenses. And so I'm very suspect of long-term fiscal discipline higher and higher up in government. The way we originally wrote the formulas back 60, 70 years ago does not keep pace with the modern economy. The fact is the cities need more of an equitable share in the road fund. That is where a lot of your growth occurs, and so consequently we need to see that happen. It is a tough battle, as the League of Cities is aware. There is a balance to be struck there, in my opinion, but certainly the current allocation is not working for the Commonwealth. You know, we have to understand a couple of fundamental principles as we go into tax reform. First of all, revenue neutrality. We don't need a change that, in the absence of natural growth, just creates a bunch of extra money overnight, because that's just a tax increase, and ultimately that will not be viewed favorably by people in general. The second thing that we need to remember is whatever we do needs to be done incrementally. We cannot just go in and wholesale overnight change everything, because you could see massive revenue spikes or declines in the event that some of the assumptions have proven to be wrong. And then the third thing we've got to remember in the Commonwealth is our state and local tax codes are incredibly interwoven, and the things that we do are incredibly interdependent on one another. You need only look at your property tax bill or your tangible property tax bill to see all the different taxing districts that exist under any given taxing item in the Commonwealth. So we've got to be very careful that whatever we do has minimal impact on the locals as well.